Hi, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Kate, coming to you tonight from the new rectory and with a wonderful guest, my friend Joshua Wong. Welcome, Joshua.
Well, it's wonderful to see you again, Kate. I
I
love seeing you
know,
all the time. Yes.
I know, and it's been a long year, and we were just remembering that one of the last things that we did before the world shut down early last year. Well, one of the last things I did was attend an art show where your work was featured. So we'll get to that. But first of all, Joshua, I want to just ask you the question I always ask my guests. And that is, are you a native Angelino? And if not, how did you find your way to Los Angeles?
Sure. It's so strange because I actually grew up here since we came to America when I was 4 years old. My
Wow.
family and I grew up I was born in Hong Kong,
Mm-hmm.
and my father moved us all here in 1964 and in
Mm.
LA. And then we lived here a couple years and then we moved to Santa Barbara. And after that, we moved back here. So I am quite a
Mhm.
native Angelino, yes.
You are. So your whole life, as long as you can remember, you've been in Los Angeles or Santa Barbara, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It wasn't until I was probably like 20 years old that I went to visit Hong Kong again and to realize how the world looked like if everyone was Asian.
I know, right? Yeah, that's right. So that's the first time that you had that experience, huh? So Hong
Yeah.
Kong, I used to go to Hong Kong when I was growing up, when I lived in Malaysia and then when I lived in Korea. And to me, it was always the most glamorous place imaginable, you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So much, so much.
Hong Kong is, I remember somebody who traveled the world was asked that, and they said they still think Hong Kong is one of the best cities they've ever been to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
Hong Kong is is like a New York that doesn't sleep. Yeah.
yeah, it is so different than any other place. I wonder if it's still that way though. I mean, it's probably going to change a lot.
Yeah, I understand that it's no longer going to be the same. I think what makes Hong Kong so charming is that there's so much British influence in it. Like if you go
Mm-hmm.
up to the peaks, all the streets of
Mm.
the names of the streets are all like British names,
Mm-hmm.
and all
Mm-hmm.
of that is slowly gonna not gonna be understood or seen the same way that my
Yeah.
generation has. Yeah,
So
yeah.
you grew up in Los Angeles, and when you were growing up, what did you think that you were going to be when you grew up? What did you think your career was going to be?
Very good question. I always knew I was going to be an artist. Because I was really clear the gift that I had was drawing. So ever
Hmm.
since I was 4 years old, I was drawing cars and I was drawing women's high heel shoes. They
Even
simultaneously.
when you were that young,
Yeah, yeah.
amazing.
My mother actually was the one who told me that she remembered seeing a 4 year old boy drawing women's high heel shoes. So so I always knew I was going to be in that, and also both sides of my parents, their parents were very artistic. So
Mm.
I knew I was going to, it was ushering me into the world of art.
Yes, absolutely. I love that you knew
Yeah.
that so early on. And did you grow up in a house where there were always plenty of art supplies and
No, no,
no?
that was the opposite. Yeah. We grew up really poor. My father was a pastor, and he was living by faith in
Mhm.
California in the 60s. So we didn't have any money for those things, but I was surrounded by music because everyone was classical
Mm.
musician. They were all trained musicians.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I have an aunt right now who's I think 93, who's living in assisted living. She is the oldest one in our whole family, and she actually is a prodigy. She represented Hong Kong playing for the coronation of Queen Elizabeth. So
My
yeah,
goodness.
yeah.
So
So
you grew up, your dad was a pastor. I think you grew up in an evangelical family, didn't you? What
definitely,
was
yes.
it, does that mean, did that mean I'm going to guess that that meant a strict upbringing, but maybe not.
More more literal than strict. I think,
Interesting. Hmm.
yeah, evangelicals in my family was more literal about what they read in the
Hmm.
Bible
Hmm.
compared to the Episcopalians.
Hmm.
Uh, so that was it. But my father was unusual. My father was a really charismatic Chinese pastor. He wasn't one
Hmm.
of those stereotypical ones that were very solemn and very,
Hmm.
like hung up and
Hmm.
really, he instead he was an artist himself. He used to
Hmm.
draw while he was preaching, and he used to
Oh my.
make the congregation laugh throughout the whole service. So everybody really liked him because they could relate to him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
That's
was
so
lucky to have a father
interesting.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was your mom like?
My mom was the perfect support for him. She's still
Hmm.
alive. I see her a couple times a week
Oh,
in
nice.
yeah, in the Pasadena area. But she was the anchor for my father. She did all of the things to support my father, take care of the family so that my father could do what he felt called to do.
Hmm.
So it was wonderful. We had a quite a loving, supportive family, and we still see each other, all the siblings. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
Oh, that's great. You have a lot of siblings? You say all the
yeah,
siblings, like there's bunches
yeah,
of them.
yeah, yeah. I have I'm number five and the
Oh,
youngest.
wow.
Yes, yes,
Aw.
yeah.
Are they all around here? Are they in the LA area still?
Four of us are.
Hmm.
One of my sisters live in New York. I think she's actually listening right now.
Oh, good. What's her first name?
Her name is Grace. Yes,
Grace. We're so
yes,
glad that you're listening. Blessings to
yes,
you in New York City.
yes. Grace and I are very, very close because she's number four and I'm number five. We
Right.
both grew up more Americanized in many sense
Right.
than
Right.
the
Oh,
other ones.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, so little four-year-old Joshua is drawing and painting and all of that, and you always knew that you were going to be an artist. What how did you get from there to your life in art and design?
Mm. So one of the one of the most influential uh, uh, events that happened was meeting
Mhm.
someone, a very, very old, very, very elderly lady that was attending my father's church. And every Sunday, my father had this little church on Silver Lake Boulevard, the first
Okay.
Chinese Alliance church there. And at
The
the end of the
first Chinese
service,
Alliance Church there. Uh-huh.
yes, he went on to start a lot of other ones, but that was the
Hmm.
original one. And every Sunday's service at the end was this Rolls Royce that was parked in the front. And it was
Mm.
someone picking up this elderly lady. And
Hmm.
so my father got to know them, and it turns out it was this person's granddaughter. And the granddaughter and the son-in-law, it turns out they were very successful commercial artists. So when she passed away, they had us over for dinner, and they lived in Hancock Park. And during the dinner, they realized my dream of attending this school called Art Center College of Design in Pasadena. And
Hmm.
it's one of America's premier commercial art schools.
Mm.
And so they said, well, we graduated from there.
Oh,
So they
wow.
said, we're going to put it in a good word for you for the
Hmm.
administration. So they did, and I got in.
Nice.
And that changed my whole life because I went from going to a kind of a lower income
Hmm.
area of
Hmm.
LA
Hmm.
high school to Art Center College of Design. And it was a 4-year program. And I went straight through. I finished in 3.5 years. And I also was admitted. I was one of the few people that was allowed to start right from high school. They really want you to go to undergraduate schools before to get all of your basic, top classes finished. And so, but they accepted me straight from high school. So I was able to finish early, and that really projected my life forward because right after that, I became an art director in advertising, and from there, 13 years later, I was still an art director. Yeah,
An art director in advertising, and so here in Los Angeles or in New York?
both.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and how does that relate to your career in design, actually designing beautiful, beautiful things? Tell me
Ah,
about that. So
well,
you're an ad man. You're an ad man,
yeah, yeah. I was an ad man for the first
like
13
Mad Men,
years.
right?
Yeah, yeah. I was the creative part. I I
Mhm.
I was head of United Airlines, designed for United Airlines, Hilton
Oh,
Hotels, a lot of
wow.
those brands. And I did that, and I loved it. It really was a great place for me to learn how to be disciplined, how to work as a
Mm.
team, how to how to how to fulfill, deadlines, how to think strategically, which still helps me to
Mm.
this day in church work. How do you talk to people? What do people really want to hear? How do you get
Mm.
to the point of people's needs? All those things I learned in advertising. And the weird thing
Mm.
was that from there, a lot of life things happened. And from there, I
Mhm.
actually moved to New York City. And
Mm.
I worked in advertising a little bit in New York City and kind of accidentally got into shoes.
All right, so tell us the story of kind of accidentally getting into shoes. Wait,
It's
first
a
let's
que-
put up a shoe. Let's put up a shoe
Okay.
right now, just to
Okay.
uh, set the mood. There's a
Great.
beautiful one. There it is. All right, this shoe back when it was being advertised. It went for $1,895. Probably would be 5 times that today.
Ah, yeah, that's actually very recent. That
Oh,
shoe
this
is
is a
for
recent one?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, this is very recent. It's for a new brand uh, that was brought back to life from actually I believe it's the 50s. And this young couple who had a really great sense of style,
Mm.
they actually wanted to design a whole line of shoes that was inspired by Hollywood glamour.
Oh.
So they actually found me on a social media platform, and they
Mhm.
called me up and they just said, "Hey, look, this is who we are. We want to
Mhm.
start a shoe line. Can you help us?" So I did that for the first 3, 4 years of their existence, and it was really, really beautiful.
Mm.
They used factories that I recommended
Mhm.
from Italy, and everything was made in Italy.
Mm.
I designed what we call spec, which is measure and give dimensions and give all the instructions. That's what being a shoe
Mm.
designer is that you really are part like uh, you hold the crystal ball and you kind of project what you think will sell a year from now because you design it that much ahead, and
Yes.
you create lines that really speak to people, that really push the emotions of people, and
Mm.
they were a wonderful brand, Palter and Deliso. Yeah,
So, I mean, just for fun, and then I do want to hear the
yeah,
story of how you got into shoes. Let's just look at this shoe for a minute. All right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm seeing a sort of like a double platform.
Yes, you have actually that's the technical term. It's a double
Oh wow.
platform.
And a lucite heel.
Yes, yes,
Wow.
yes. I
And
knew
then I
Kate and I
can't
had a lot of things in common.
um, and
Yes,
then the
Swarovski,
design. What is it called?
Swarovski diamonds.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah,
they're
they're
gorgeous.
crystal
They're
diamonds. Yeah, yeah,
crystals. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So this shoe would be worn. Um,
This shoe would be worn for a red carpet,
Yeah.
like red
Yeah.
carpet special. The people who brought this brand back, they live that lifestyle. I mean, they go to extravagant, beautiful parties, and
Mhm.
this is what they would wear. I mean, even when I have meetings with the one of the owners, I mean, she marches
Mhm.
around in shoes like this with really really beautiful like short dresses and stuff. So
Oh my
it's
goodness.
yeah. And the reason why these are so expensive is because the heels and stuff are really, they're not crystal. You can't make stuff out of crystal because they're not strong enough, but
Right.
they are custom molded and carved.
Mm.
You can't really see the picture, but the backs have
Mm.
beautiful carvings to them. Yeah. That
Oh,
reminisce
that's amazing.
the original Palter de Liso style. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. So exciting. Okay, so how did you get into designing these amazing designer shoes?
Yeah, yeah, it's a lovely story. Actually, in my probably second year of living in New York City, I just loved New York. I mean, after 13 years of being an
Mm.
art director, just even being in New York, I was sleeping on the floor in my sister's apartment, and I was the
Uh-huh.
happiest in my whole life. I was marching around with
Oh.
my portfolio, showing it to people all over New York, and gradually I started meeting some different people, and and then I had to find my own apartment, and my sister
Mhm.
was interning with somebody whose parents own a lot of buildings in New York City.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
she asked her parents, and her parents said, yes, there's one that's coming on the market. They've lived there since the 1960s in
Mhm.
Soho, and this apartment was going back out of the market because of rent control. They could only raise it a little bit, and
Oh,
I paid
wow.
$465 a month in Soho. Okay,
Was it
so
cute?
anyway,
Was it a cute apartment?
it was cute but tiny. It was
Yeah.
super tiny. It was 275 square feet, but
Oh
it had,
my.
it was like,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
you're in Soho, right? You're like so
Yes.
happy. Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, so the daughter said, "Hey, you know what? Do you think you can help a friend of mine? She's a single mom who's looking to get into graphics design. Would you talk to her on the phone?" I said, "Definitely." So when we were talking on the phone, at the end of an hour conversation, she said, "Thank you so much. How can I repay you for this?" And I said, "No, nothing, nothing." And she said, "Well, why are you in New York?" And I told her, "I'd love to be in shoes and all this stuff." And she said, um, that's weird. My neighbor is in shoes. Maybe I could talk to her. And I thought, yeah, right. Promises, promises. The next day, I got a phone call from this woman. Turns out that she was a creative director of a brand called Charles Jourdan from Paris, and she was
Mhm.
creative director. And she said, "I heard about you. I'm very very busy. Thursday's the only time I have. It's market week. Can you come over and show me your portfolio?" So I had 2 days to put together a whole new portfolio, and I never even like designed real shoes before. So when I went there, in front of Saks Fifth Avenue and everyone, I had to show my portfolio. And
Oh
there
my
she
goodness.
said, "Would you be my intern?" And I said,
Oh.
"Sure." So I went back, and she was gone to Paris to put in new designs. And she
Mhm.
said, "While I'm gone, can you please design all this stuff for me and fax it to me, and we'll see if there's anything we can put in." So I did. I learned it. I did it, and so that was going on. Meanwhile, this is so New York. Meanwhile,
It's so
somebody
New York.
invited me to some little party, and there was this Chinese younger guy than me, and he and I just struck up a conversation. He says, "Guy, you're like, I wish I had an older brother like you." And he says, "I'm from LA and you're from LA, and he goes, "Can you draw?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Look, I'm working for a brand new company, and I'm in charge of designing all the handbags. And I need somebody to draw it, everything." And I said, "I could do it." And he says the brand is called Old Navy. And I
Oh
said,
my
"Oh,
gosh.
okay." He says, "Yeah, it's a Gap company, blah, blah, blah." So then after working at retail, I would run over there at night and start drawing. And then the creative director of Gap was from Ralph Lauren, and she said to me, "Guy, China loves your drawings. Do you think you can draw shoes?" I said,
Could I
"Yeah, I
draw
can draw
shoes?
shoes." So then I started helping the girl in charge of shoes. Well, long story short, the creative director loved my work so much. She said, "There's an opening at Ralph Lauren, and that's where I'm from, and I think you would be perfect for it." And I said, "But I really, don't have much experience." And she said, "You can draw, and Ralph really wants someone who could draw well." So I started working there, and they said to Ralph, which loved my drawings, he said, "He's a candidate for the full-time position. Would you like to meet him?" And so he met me after he came back from his ranch in Montana, and then
Mhm.
he saw my work, and then he offered me the job as head of women's design for shoes.
Oh my
And it was an honor
gosh.
because he owns a lot of different brands, and this is the only brand that actually the highest end is what he works with. So I was the only one that actually worked with him while he was doing his women's
Oh.
clothing. I was designing all the shoes that went with it. So that
So
lasted for
you
about 7 years.
wait. So you actually worked side by side with Ralph Lauren?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm the
Amazing.
only one that out of all his designers that meet with him and talk with him and decide which shoes to put in. Like a lot of the ads that became national ads were things that he and I decided would be the perfect shoes for it. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So
I
I did all
remember
the
those.
runway
So this
shows.
was in
Yeah,
the was this in the 90s
this was yeah,
or
this
the
was a
2000s?
supermodel era. This was Naomi
Yeah, so
Campbell.
I'm
This was
I'm remembering like there was like a safari year and a
yeah, yeah, yeah,
old
yeah,
English
yeah,
manor year and like
yeah,
all of
yeah,
these
yeah.
sumptuous
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
fabrics and
Yep. That
oh
was
my
my
gosh.
era. I was head of
Ah,
collection design. Yeah. Yeah, I
what
got to
was it?
dress all the supermodels, Claudia Schiffer, all of them. I have stories all of, of all of those things.
That was yeah, we don't really have supermodels in the same way anymore, do we?
And no, it's changed.
We have
It's
these young
changed.
girls that are sort of Instagram famous, but
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
There's a completely different world. I mean, back then,
Okay, so Claudia
back then it was
Schiffer, Linda
Evangelista,
Evangelista,
Lista,
and Cindy
Cla yeah,
Crawford,
yes. Claudia
and
Schiffer, Naomi
Claudia Schiffer,
Campbell,
right, Naomi Campbell.
yeah,
That was
all of them.
those were sort of the big five, weren't they?
Yeah,
There was another one,
yeah,
Stephanie Seymour.
yeah. Those are. It was very funny. It was. I remember the week before the runway shows, we were all so overworked and like working all night. And then it was right like the Thursday before the show, the night before the show. Um, you would see these giraffes walking in. You would see the models walking in, and they know that you know them, but you don't say anything, of course. So Naomi
Yeah.
Campbell would walk in, like from Donna Karen. She would then move over to us, and then she'd get fitted, and they'd all like just decide what outfits she would be wearing to go on the show. And so it was wonderful to see them like walk in, just say hello, walk in, and
Mm,
then they were just different people. They were so tall, so
yes.
beautiful. That's why when people ask me, "Oh, well, you live in Hollywood, you live in LA, aren't you like excited to see movie stars?" I'm like, I actually like supermodels more than movie stars. Yeah, I mean, when
Now,
you see Naomi
uh-huh.
Campbell walk out on they're an actress. I mean, she just
Mhm.
struts. She just doesn't care in the world. She is there, she swings, and you're just hoping the heels don't fall off and everything like
Yes,
that.
yes.
It's wonderful.
So
Yeah.
sort of so bold. Um,
Yeah.
in those days when they were being fitted for shoes and clothing, was it a give and take? Did they have opinions or were they just passive and it was all the designers?
It was Ralph's choice. It
Yeah.
was Ralph's choice.
And
Ralph
they knew
decides
that,
what
right?
look, yeah. And then, but the funny thing is that at the end of the show, like they'll sometimes Ralph we have like 200 shoes for him to pick from. And
Mm.
out of those, there are like maybe 15 styles. And there are some styles that he likes to use over and over again that we only have like two pairs of. And so we
Right.
would literally throw the
Rip them off.
shoes and throw it to the next person who would then put it on the foot, that kind of stuff. But I remember Linda Evangelista is famous for asking people at the end, and she asked me twice, she says, "Can I keep one of your shoes?" Because and it was an honor that she actually loves it so much. And that part of it was that African collection you talked about.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So that would have been
Yeah.
probably some cool boots and
No, they were
espadrilles, no?
woven leather wedge sandals, high heel sandals,
Mm.
ankle strap.
Oh, oh, wow.
Yeah,
Fun.
beautiful, beautiful, like vegetable tanned, like rust
Mm.
kind of Maasai. It was very much influenced by Maasai tribes, so it was
Mhm.
like earthy colors. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember
yeah,
this era like it was yesterday. I don't know, it was a really special time in fashion history, wasn't it?
yeah. It was.
It
I
was the
lived through.
Joshua Wong era, so obviously.
I was so lucky. I really am. I lived through
Yeah.
the best parts of the footwear industry because
Mm.
my big thing that ended before I moved to LA was being head of all of men's and women's shoes for Banana Republic. And
Oh,
I was,
wow.
yeah, and why I mentioned that again was because we did so well because we had like, they brought in a creative director from Burberry, a British
Mhm,
woman, who then
mhm.
got rid of their existing designer and hired me to work with her because I was collection taste and she was collection taste. And she really believed that Banana Republic should not be a destination where people go to look for sale items, but that they should
Yeah.
actually be buying, you know, prime, like first cost, I mean, not first cost, but regular price shoes. And so what would capture people is to design things people really wanted. And so with PR and with the quality changing and all that stuff, which was my responsibility, we ended up with mostly uh, shoes that was sold at regular price. So that means that the company would make a lot more money. So I really lived in a great, great time
Mm,
of fashion where
mm.
where people there was still a love for design instead of a copy of a design. It was not a Forever 21 kind of mentality of fast fashion, but it was really about people wanting something that they saw in the store. Yeah.
Now that's an interesting point. I think fast fashion has come later, hasn't it?
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
wonder if we could look at a few more designs right now while we're talking about that era.
Okay. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. This is also from Palter Deliso. This was
Mhm.
actually inspired by Venetian paper.
Oh, yes, or that sort of Venetian or Florentine? I know what you
Oh,
mean, that
well,
beautiful.
it's Florentine and Venetian
Oh,
paper.
it's beautiful,
Yeah. They
beautiful.
actually they actually used the same. I don't know how they did it. They used a technique where they did that, and then of course they put a coating on it. Yeah.
Yeah, stunning. What else have we
Isn't
got?
it?
Let's see what else. That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So, so beautiful. And now these are some of your drawings, right?
Yeah. This was at the show that Kate and I
I
were at.
know. I
Yeah.
know. That was a great and and Ralph Lauren is right. You can draw.
Yeah. I can draw men's and women's shoes, and Ralph,
Uh-huh.
because I ended up helping out with the men's department too, and he
Mhm.
really wants to do what these are called three-quarter views. Um, and the factories actually really prefer these because they can actually see the spirit of the shoe instead of
Mhm.
what we call a profile view, where everything was flat on one side.
Like a
This really
cross
showed,
section. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So
That's
this was at the
beautiful.
show that
Yes.
Otis had, yeah,
Yeah, that's right. It was a show at the Otis College of Art, as I said, right before the world shut down.
yeah.
Um, a wonderful show. What was it called? The something about the
It was called A Step Beyond.
mm,
Yeah, you can actually go on Otis's website, Otis College of it's the Ben Maltz Gallery. Ben
yeah.
Maltz, Maltz, I think. Ben Maltz
Mhm.
Gallery still has a lot of images up from the show. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And do we
Yeah.
have any? I think we have another a montage of some of the
Yeah.
beautiful designs. Is that
Yeah.
uh, the Ralph Lauren woven sandal
Yes.
that's at the middle of the top? Is
Naomi.
that part of that line that we were talking about?
Yes. Yes, that's Naomi
Wonderful.
Campbell when she was younger.
Oh, she doesn't quite look like Naomi Campbell in that
Yeah,
picture.
that's Naomi Campbell. Yeah.
So beautiful.
So the one
So
Penelope
beautiful.
Cruz on the bottom, that one is
Oh, that's
Ralph
Penelope
Lauren.
Cruz. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Penelope Cruz. Yeah.
And we
And
see
then the
Sarah
far
Jessica
left
Parker.
one is a Ralph Lauren only uses real crocodile. So
Does he
that's the
really?
sling back. Yeah. And he doesn't like seams. Seams are what makes a shoe cheaper because they can use
Mm-hmm.
smaller pieces or leftover pieces. But when
Interesting.
he does boots, like when you see full shafted boots, he never
Mm-hmm.
uses middle seams. He uses a complete one piece of leather. That's why they're so expensive.
That is fascinating. And
Yeah.
this it's hard to see the shoe that the seated woman is wearing, but it's a
Mm.
very beautiful pink shoe.
Yeah. That's Banana Republic.
Is it really?
Yeah. We
You know, I
elevated
feel
Banana
like you really
Republic.
elevated. I feel like you
Yeah.
really elevated Banana Republic.
Yep. 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 That shoe was under $100. We had to keep it under $100. Still made in Italy. Yeah. Um,
Still made
the
in
one,
Italy. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. The one above with all the boots, that center
Yes.
boot is also a Banana Republic boot.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And
And then
then to
there's
the,
this sparkly platform in the Sarah Jessica
mm,
Parker.
yes, yes, that's sold at Nordstrom's.
Mm,
Yeah.
wonderful. By the way, I want to tell you that in the chat right now, one of the people in the chat is Robin Young, and Robin Young says, "Hello, Uncle Joshua. Thank you for
Oh,
sharing your experience with us. We are supporting
oh,
you all the way. So proud of you and your efforts." Virtual hug.
oh, thank you. That's
That's
so
so
sweet.
sweet.
That's so
So,
sweet.
so you were designing shoes sort of for 7 years. Is that what you're saying?
For the Ralph Lauren
For
time,
Ralph
off and
Lauren.
on seven
Uh-huh.
years. Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yes. And then, but I've designed shoes for 13 years, I believe, off and
Mm-hmm.
on. And my latest client would be um, the Palter Deliso people, and also part of the Kim Kardashian collection. So
Really?
yeah, yeah. So it's really fun as a designer because
Mhm.
Kim Kardashian shoes are sold at Sears. So you've got a big range of what you can do. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, as a designer, you're supposed to be open-minded.
You don't
I
seem like a snob.
no, I'm not because to me the challenge is great. I mean, if
Mm.
you do inexpensive shoes, it just means that the numbers are different, the vendors are different, the country that you have to go and visit is different,
Mhm.
things like
Mhm.
that. But also, we're talking about a lot bigger numbers too. So yeah,
So
yeah,
that's where the
but
profit would be in the
yeah,
numbers
and
instead of.
yeah, and that leads to actually what I really love to do now is also I'm a mentor right now. So I'm a mentor at a
Mhm.
couple of different schools uh, because I really hope that the next generation of artists or designers would be encouraged, especially being a Christian. There aren't a
Mm.
lot of uh, there aren't a lot of moral kind of guidelines and offerings people give. um, there aren't a lot of That's why one of the areas that I'm very interested in, there's three areas I'm interested in ministry. One is in the
Yeah, yeah,
arts
yeah.
community.
Well,
Yeah.
but we still have to sort of we have to get from shoes to ministry. So hold on there, Joshua.
Okay.
I'm glad there are three areas of ministry,
I'm
but
glad you're there to lower my
I know.
excitement level.
We left you in New York City
Ah,
hobnobbing with a supermodel. So how did you
mm,
get from there?
mm,
Now you're back in LA
yeah,
and and you're still doing design and you're also in seminary, but you also became an Episcopalian. So just walk
yeah.
us through what happened. What
Mm.
happened to you?
Well, actually, I became an Episcopalian before I moved to New York. The
Oh
Episcopal
wow.
Church actually saved me because I grew up in a faith tradition that did not believe that being uh, a person who is gay is
Mm-hmm.
saved or can be saved.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really thought that I had no choice. I thought that God didn't love me anymore. So I discovered All Saints Pasadena. Well, that's another story.
Oh.
But All Saints Pasadena actually opened up a lot of resources for me to learn that there are a lot of, that God loves me and has created me the way I am. And then from All Saints Pasadena, I moved to New York City, and
Mm.
I actually joined the Episcopal Church at St. Thomas on Fifth Avenue and 53rd Street. So
Ah.
I had a wonderful community there. Priests all kind of took me under their wings to 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 help me, and so that's why I love the Episcopal Church and the rituals
Mm.
and the liturgy and the music and all that is just this beautiful way of worshiping that I never really grew up with. Um,
Mm.
so I remained being a member of St. Thomas all the way up until we moved to LA. And from LA, um, let's see, that's we had a couple of years in Orange County in the Presbyterian Church, which was a
Mm-hmm.
wonderful community. And from there, we moved to Pasadena,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're members of THADS in Culver City.
Culver
Yeah,
City, which, if you all don't know, is a very cool church. It's sort of a, what do you call yourselves?
emerging church.
Emerging church with
Yeah,
wonderful live music, roots music, Americana music. It's so
yeah,
different than any other Episcopal church I know of.
yeah. It's a
And
church that has an open dialogue after every sermon, after every homily, giving people a chance to share with the community and to process what they learned. And I just think it's holy dialogue. That's all I could say. Yeah,
that's powerful. What a great idea.
yeah,
So, where were you at Thad's when you got your call to the priesthood? How did that happen?
yeah. Thad's is my sponsoring church,
Nice.
and John Depp is the priest, and Sarah Reynolds is the assistant priest. And John, uh, John, John asked my husband and I on a summer evening, sitting outside at dinner, whether I felt a calling for the ministry. And I've
Out of the
had this,
blue? Out of the blue? Wow.
and it stopped us in our tracks. And I got to admit, I had a feeling like this for probably the last 5 to 10 years, because I didn't know if I wanted to get back into the life my father had as a
Mm.
minister. Um, but I must say that what what brought me to a different point is what happened in our last 4 years, and the political environment that we were in. I was just really seeing the decaying of our society, the decaying of what is right and wrong, and how lies can people can get away with lying. And I just really felt like the world needs people to love and care for others. And I told John that it's something he needs to keep reminding me about. I didn't want to say yes or no, and he did for a couple months. And Edward, my husband, and I both really prayed about it and really thought about it. And he also felt that that was the right thing, that that was a natural thing for me because of the history and the experience of life, the narratives that have accumulated in my life. And so I said yes. And he formed a discernment team. So Thad's is my sponsoring church. So that's all.
Speaking of Thad's, Kathy Watts is in the chat right now.
Oh,
And she
yes.
says, "We are so proud of your journey into the ministry, Josh, from your friends at Thad's."
Yeah, it's amazing. It's
So they
amazing the
called you.
support.
It sounds like sometimes people receive the call and then they need to go find a community to believe in them, or they feel it before the community does. But it sounds like this community kind of came and got you,
Yeah.
or God came and
Yeah.
got you using the community.
Yeah. Yeah. God really God came God came God came in a very beautiful time in my life to do this. Um, because I just really feel like all of the different careers I've had
Mhm.
gives me more clarity about what it means to be part of the world, to be used by God in the world right now. I think especially after COVID, and in seminary, I'm just really learning so much about how the church is changing and how people's viewpoint of spirituality is changing.
Mm,
And I don't, my simple prayer to God is, I don't really care where you put me, just use me, you know?
yeah,
So, um, I
yeah.
think
You
the
know, I,
LGBTQ community really needs me. The Asian Pacific American community needs me, and the artist
yeah.
community
And the
needs me.
artist
So,
community, yes, all three of those. And those are
yeah.
three big communities in Los Angeles and this whole region. By the way, one of the people in the chat, Comfort, she loves shoes, but she's actually asking you a question about the ministry, which is, did you have to go through some kind of counseling first before your decision to change vocation, especially one that involved the ministry?
That's a very good question. I think every person goes through it differently. Some do start getting counseling. Some, when you decide to go forward, and the church puts you into forms a discernment team for you. Jim White, who's part of our diocese, immediately
Hmm.
meets with you guys with us, and he also recommends that we all have spiritual directors. So spiritual
Hmm.
directors are part of that discernment team. So you're not doing it
Yeah,
alone.
yeah,
All
that's
through the
great.
whole process, there are so many opportunities for you to keep discerning through it. And I'm really happy that the our faith tradition really respects that, and respects people's and honors people's like real, like honesty about whether they want to get into this ministry or not. And there are different ways of serving too, you know, diaconate, laity. So you could still get all the training and all that, but
Mhm.
you know, everybody's different. Yeah.
Right, and you're halfway through seminary right now. Yeah.
Yes, I am. Yes.
Congratulations. Does it feel like it's gone fast so far or
Yes,
slow?
it has. And
Hmm.
I feel like I've learned a lot.
All
Yeah.
right, now I'll let you tell us what are your three ministry
Ah,
dreams. I know it's important.
ah.
So so what are they?
The
What are
three
those three?
areas of my calling?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do, yeah.
The three areas that I still feel called
Hmm.
is to be a part of the Asian American ministry, and because it is my story.
Hmm.
And I'm also called to help and care for the LGBT community,
Hmm.
because they are told over and over again that God does not love them. And they are told over and over again that the church does not have a place in their lives. And it is so false. And then the third area I feel really strongly about is um, the artist community, the fashion community, because no one ever talks about God in it. Yet God is the center and the creator of the most beautiful things.
Yeah.
It's the creator of our minds, our imagination, our ability, our sensories to create beautiful things so that people can like look forward to wearing a beautiful pair of 8-inch heels. I mean, those are still joys that God gives us.
So
So
isn't that interesting that I mean, I've never heard anyone say it the way that you're saying it right now, that in the world of art that's infused with God, there's a separation between the artist and the source.
Yeah, and the Episcopal Church has a perfect place for it because the
Yeah.
Episcopal Church believes in different ways of coming to to the Spirit of God. And it, I mean, we all respect each other's call of faith, but
Mm,
the Episcopal Church is very unique that it's open for people to learn about the multiple facets of God, the multiple facets of the Trinity.
hmm
And that's something that I think the church is often so scared of talking about. You know, there's this
hmm
fear of, oh, you're so like in the world, you're so influenced by the world, uh, you're so affected by the world. But God created the world, and God created
Mm,
just the most amazing, uh, you know, things that people can do, you know, and
mm,
God wants to retrieve it all back, and everybody knows that they are that they are part of God's kingdom, and not to
mm,
be outside of God's kingdom, you know.
mm,
That's the
mm.
thing, is inside and outside. You know, let's, you know, my hope is that in all three areas we're there's more of a blending of what is both, you know, all joined together.
That's beautiful. And I also hear in the way that you're talking about it that an impulse for healing uh,
Yeah, that's
in
true.
all of it.
That's
Because
so
when we're
true.
separated from God, or when we're shamed or told that we don't belong to God, I mean, the need for healing is
Oh,
enormous.
it's so enormous. And who do we
And
think
that's
that?
kind of who do we think we are not to?
Yeah,
I want to talk in the sort of, we're nearing the end of our hour, but I want to talk about what happened in Atlanta almost a month ago now. When we on the topic of the need for healing and change,
yeah.
and and I know that it hit everybody so hard, but I know because I read a speech that you wrote about it. I know that it affected you profoundly. Can you talk a little bit about this recent violence and the larger history of violence?
Yeah. Well, obviously, we're not going to be able to cover everything about this, but the things that I wanted to leave for people is the fact that that we need to my prayer and hope for the Episcopal Church in our community and LA Diocese and whoever else is listening is that people realize that we need to know other cultures better. And the Asian Pacific American community here in America, and I say American because I believe that any immigrant that has come
Mm-hmm.
from Asia becomes an American when they come to this soil, whether they like to claim it or not. It's a matter of time. Our minds,
Mm-hmm.
our influences are become American, and
Mm-hmm.
we all strive to be Americans in this country. We need to understand that concept a lot more. We need to realize and learn. I just really hope that people will take advantage of all of the opportunities that diocese offers to learn about racism,
Mm-hmm.
especially Asian Pacific Americans racism, because we're a population that really um, really believes in not making waves or problems. We
Mm-hmm.
decide we have, you can ask anyone, we have all escaped a country to come to another country that we hope will give us a better life. You know, it's not that we all want to come to America because it's great. It's because there's so much oppression in other countries.
Yeah.
So, first of all, understand that everybody, they're trying to make a good life for themselves and they're trying to contribute, but we're not all the same. Asians
Mm-hmm.
are, like I told Kate, I believe there's
Mhm.
48 countries that United
Mhm.
Nations consider
Mhm.
as Asians. So imagine when you say those Asians, which Asians are you talking about? And then out of all those Asians, there are so many generations in those Asians.
Mm.
There are fourth generation Japanese, fifth generation Japanese, Chinese,
Mm.
Filipinos, everyone. And we're all lumped together when there's hate crimes. And that is something that loving people like ourselves need to learn about. We need to learn about other people's cultures. And also we need to learn um, to to give people a chance in this country. It's been how long, and most of the decision making in our country, whether corporate or political, are all from one race and one
Mhm.
gender. And that's not
Mhm.
going to change the world when other people don't have power.
Yeah.
Hispanics need power, blacks need power, Asians need power, LGBTQ people need power. They need to be elected, they need to be given a chance. So
Mhm.
that's going to help change the world if people um, vote people in, change laws, and so forth. And
Why do you
also,
think that elderly Asian Americans have been targeted especially? That seems especially cruel.
because the people who are doing it are especially stupid. They are. I hate to say
Mm.
this. They're cowardly and they are just following some rhetoric that our former president has given them permission.
Mm.
And for them to just bully someone, isn't it easy to bully someone who can't fight you back? It's
Yeah.
it's their way of just telling the world that they're so angry and they hate others.
Yeah.
Even in Monterey Park right now in San Gabriel Valley, in the malls, you see signs up written out in hand saying, "Let's watch out for our elderly."
Mm.
Let's do this, let's do that, because we're all afraid that it's going to happen anywhere, everywhere, and we've got to make this a conversation topic. You know,
Yeah. Now
another.
it's
Yeah.
interesting. I've heard you use the term um, invisible minority or model minority, and so it sounds like some of this uh, making this a conversation topic is
Yeah.
overcoming that, um, not
Yeah.
making waves. I mean, making
Yeah.
waves,
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. I think that the powerful majority people do not want others to start getting the same powers they have, and that's holding them back. And one of the things that has happened to
Mm,
Asian Pacific Americans is that because we were raised to be good citizens in this country,
mhm,
we were given this model minority title by someone. It isn't from
mm,
us. It sounds like, oh God, you guys are so, it's great you guys are given this. It just means that other minorities are not models, and
mm.
when you're put into a box uh, and you have no room to breathe, you cannot grow, you cannot change, you cannot rebel, it's another form of dying.
Yeah.
So so to be put in these kinds of labels means that all Asians are going to be crazy rich Asians, all Asians are going to
Mm,
be mathematicians, all Asians are going to be the submissive, women are going to be like the submissive object. Men are going to
mm,
just be like these less than white
mm,
guys things. I mean, in the LGBT
mm,
community, it's slowly changing, but in Asians are considered on the lower tiers of someone who is more desirable. And why is that? It's because the white community has given the power, has said, we are better than you, we look better than you, we have the looks that the world wants. I mean, that is
mm,
what power is.
mhm.
And that is what, in a way, that's what commercialism is. That's what we're taught in media, is instead of honoring everyone for who they are and
Mhm.
loving everyone for who they are.
There we are again at where the media world and the faith world meet, and how
Yeah,
you, right? Just sort
yeah,
of, yeah.
yeah. It's unfortunate. It's something that we need to all learn to do. Is the Asian voice needs to be given a chance, and Hollywood is slowly starting to do that by having a lot more commercials now that include Asians. How
Hmm.
long has it been? How long does it take to finally see an Asian in a commercial? You know,
I
meanwhile, we
know.
we are big consumers, and so I mean, what does it take? What does it take? I mean, the Atlanta tragedy happened right at a time when we saw bullies pushing, killing elderly people, and then the targeting of women, Asian women, mostly Asian women, and and then lumping everyone to saying that they are all whores and they are all prostitutes. Meanwhile, there's
Mm.
no understanding that in that some of the things that happened in the Korean spas and the Chinese spas, that they don't realize that those cultures honor spas as a way of living and as a way of community,
Yeah.
and so
Everybody goes
immediately,
to the spa. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and as you know, St. James is right in the middle of Koreatown. There's Yeah, and spas are everything, and so the media doesn't know anything like that. So that's why, once again, it's
Mm.
about learning that in
Mm.
other cultures, spas are not just, like places. Like a minority of them are like places where people are getting served for sex, but most
Hmm.
of them it's because of, just holistic reasons. Yeah.
Got it. Well, talking about spas is a funny place to end our conversation. But we've talked about everything from the evangelical church to the design, to the advertising world, to the design high fashion world, to the Episcopal world. We've talked about anti-Asian racism, and we've talked about your call to ministry. We've covered a lot of topics in 1 hour, haven't we? Is there anything that we haven't covered? Is there like one thing, one message that you'd like to leave us with tonight, Joshua?
Wow, you put me on the spot.
That's okay. You're good there. You know what you're doing.
I am just very excited about what the future of the church will look like. I'm excited to I'm excited that the church is being challenged to be relevant and to really speak a language that people can understand, and that's what I want to do. And I think that that's
Mm,
what we're all called to do, is to not be too comfortable in our beautiful places of community, but to really be priests. We're all priests. You don't have to be ordained. We're all priests. So start acting like a priest. Start sharing, start helping, start
mm,
blessing, start praying, start all that stuff. So, as I'm discerning, I hope this is not just left for me, but it's for everyone to discern
mm,
and to really think about your own narrative, your own beautiful stories. You all own beautiful stories. And what does that mean about where that fits into St. James's ministry,
mm,
to your own parish ministry, in your own life, whether you even have a church or not? You are
mhm,
called to live a full life. That is what God calls us to do: live a full life, free from discrimination, and
mm,
knowing that no matter what we do, we are truly, truly beloved, and there's nothing more we can do about it.
mm. Perfect way to end our conversation. Joshua, thank you so much for being with us
Oh,
tonight. Really wonderful. And I can't wait to see you again
oh,
in person soon.
yes, yes, we'll have coffee,
All
real
right,
coffee.
good. In Koreatown. All right, real coffee
Yes.
in Koreatown.
Okay,
All
I
right,
love that
good
last phrase.
night. Blessings,
Okay,
everyone. Stay safe.
thank you for letting me share. Bye.
Thank you for being here.